Hi. Yeah, Glenn. Uh, got the door open, the city sounds coming in. Very noisy. But I want to tell you about basically this con epiphany sort of realization, this sort of mission that I've had. This mission, um, it's just basically something that I realized is not real. Okay. Really, really, yeah. And um, so when I was a kid, I always realized that basically the statistics sort of, I've got to close the door. That basically there's this very specific statistic that I would explain, and people would, intelligent, my own family members, my parents, very close friends, would always get wrong. They would simply refuse to quote me directly. Just like it was impossible. It was like if they were to see this point. So basically, it's about basically people who grew up on the West Coast, who are white, part English or Irish, part English or Irish, possibly both, but and continental, and noticeably white or Western, nuclear family. We're left-hand. I'm on the left-hand side of America. I was running through this in my head. I kind of like try to project it, but it's just longer. It's horrible. Um, so, so this reality, and so I realized that they could not quote me directly. I would say, okay, it's someone like Kurt Cobain, someone who's left-handed. Both of their parents are in the location. Uh, that quasi-nuclear family, they're still geographically present. Um, and just like all these little intrinsic parts, contextual perhaps, family structure. But so trying to, I had this whole concept laying in bed after I just woke up. And so basically, then I saw on the news after I fully realized that since I was pretty darn young, since I was a child, that left-handed people on the west coast of America, children, youth, were unhappy. Then I realized from the news that people on the east coast, or in fact the Atlantic coast, who had highly Asian sort of perspectives, mostly, well, it's also a little bit of this, sort of, whereas on the left-hand coast, it's more like there's talent there. It's like there's like a wall, a sail that's filled up. So basically, what it is that it's like so here's an analogy. Jesus was a Semitic person, right? He grew up not in so much in Asia, but in the Atlantic, not the Atlantic, but the Mediterranean, which is close to there, right? So they're all having this Jesus crisis moment. Okay, so they're like this alien reflection somehow that Jesus took this peaceful sort of path because he was actually, while he was Semitic, he was also a native of that central place. That's like the Great Divide compacted down right there in the Middle East, the Near East, and the whole around the Near East. So basically, America is sort of like takes this place. Calling it the Holy Land would be nice, right? Something the opposite, not so nice. That's why the Puritans had to go there for some reason. That's how America started off. Was getting away from. So it was sort of like a refugee experience, but it didn't cross the Great Divide until just very recently. Um, so, so they're having this Jesus crisis moment. This is sort of laying in bed there, and I just sort of want to make things as simple, as clear as possible. So hopefully, maybe this is like an edit point. I realized as a kid that very, very simply, and it's complex. Okay, so it's like it's basically looking for 1 in 1 million. 1 in 1 million to make an example for the rest of the world. Okay, so that's sort of that crisis moment, Jesus crisis moment, right? That, an epiphany, a miracle, it's like, whoa, what is going on here, Yes. I love it, but, of course, it's, inspiration, in, incapacitary, conspiracy, that goes either way. That person in that crisis pushes it. It's like, whoa, a miracle. It's like a burden, like a crown of thorns type of thing. So basically, okay. So I realized as a kid that people on the west in America, so you have the Great Divide, right? There's no ocean passage in the same way that there was traditionally no ocean passage between the Far East and the Middle East, or the Far West, and the Holy Land, right? So you have that same two oceans, no passage, in the Holy Land as you do in America. So you have these extremes of culture. So you have the left-hand side, and you have the east side. So I really trying to make this as simple as possible so that people are like, okay, and then they have a Jesus Christ moment. They'll be in complete denial. They'll be like, yeah, right. But so this is like this 1 in 1 million. I mean, what are you going to do with 1 in 1 million? I mean, especially since you can't see it. If you could see it, it wouldn't be 1 in 1 million, basically. Not as the child who's like suffering, who's potentially becoming dangerous. Jeez. So, and it's hot. I have a fan on, so it's. So yeah, so this is just think about time. The Romans were around only 2,000 years ago. That's a long time, okay, but that's only a few generations. That's only, 20 generations or something? 100 generations, yeah. So it's, things move slowly but inexorably, and, you don't, you have to correct things and then hold them there. It's just like a break, the Great Divide is unbreakable. It'll break us. So, we like to think, we'll use technology to break to conquer geography. Conquering geography with cars, cloud of pollution, whereas in reality, there's, I try to write this stuff out of this fantastic sort of the leverage points. Sort of, and then if you're in like a group and you're trying to explain something, everyone else is like, no, I know how to do it. I can, and everyone's doing it themselves, and who knows what they're doing, because if you can't communicate eye to eye, then there's this major sort of Jesus Christ moment, yeah. So, if it's solved, the world is a healthy place, okay? So they say, well, a lot of empires, some of them are like, we don't want any foreign stuff. Others are like, we'll go out there and see what they've got, and it's bad karma to do that. So basically, if you have this 1% and you're navigating that, so you could say, oh, there was this troubled empire, one who was constantly trying to expand. And can you have their medicine? Can you find their 1 in a million? Or because medicine, it's big money, but it's also that sort of a lot of original explorers are looking for souls, right? They're looking for people who would be part of that empire. But it's very, 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 very it's like you're finding the Jesus Christ and saying, you're not a slave, you're simply in the wrong place, and then at the same time finding peace. It's so you have this 1 in a million on one side who is like anti-gravity, the scales of justice, right? That's Bezos. And on the other side, you have 5 to 20% of the population who are, they're just, I don't know, they're just, so this is where you cannot have that epiphany, because you can't say, oh, 1 in a million to 2 out of 5, right? That's like 2 out of 5. Or 1 out of 5, right? So if you start having that kind of clarity, then that's like the fuel, the Hollywood fuel of the Hollywood sort of conceptual realization, that, oh, geez, I've suddenly seen this light, this 1 in a million, and then the 1 in 5 or something like that. It's a disingenuous idea. So the language is there, but it's always a slippery slope. And yet, if you're that 1 in a million, statistics and geographic reality, realistics, I was going to say. I don't rhyme in real life. Crazy. So that's it. So that's hopefully makes some sense. All I know is that I'm trying to navigate myself, trying to find my sort of straight path, but it stinks. So I'm always dreaming of the philosophy and technology of what could be. And make it happen, And there's again this Jesus, you have an invention. It's like, oh, go look at my invention, It's like my secret invention, But it's a box. It's a box. It's like a high windstorm. It's like stormy seas, the juice box. Okay, so the milk box. So you know, if you see something that's confounding, why should that be? That's and then you start having that Jesus Christ crisis moment, and you start saying, "Oh, it's all their problem, not my problem, not our problem." Or there is no problem because they do not have a problem. We don't have a problem. So if the problems are solved, then you're right. There is no problem. Shut up already. But this is something that is not like paste. That you're saying, oh, and here we witnessed the idiot. No, this is actually sort of hot lava, so it can do whatever it wants. It doesn't have a clue. It's just following gravity. Its parents have sort of placed it somewhere. So okay, so here's a rundown. So we go in reverse. If your parents both grew up in the same town in Asia, and then they moved to the east coast of America, or potentially to anywhere in the Atlantic, so on the east coast of America, and both of your parents are from East Asia, and they have no history in between there. So they didn't stop in Hawaii, they didn't stop in California. They just came straight there, no stops. This person, and then they say they go from anywhere from about Washington D.C. south, and they live around there. That's like an Andrew Jackson sort of operating zone. They're screwed. Okay. And this is a highly specific statistic that you can really easily whitewash over. You can really say, oh, here's a person. The parents are from East Asia and grew up on the East Coast, but if they're born on the West Coast of America, then it's highly relevant. The parents have sort of they've taken that graduation. Whereas on the left-hand side of America, it's the opposite. Okay, so it's all these things are the opposite. So you have this cross, and in the middle you have this sort of these extreme sort of little triangles, and it's just this half of the triangle because it's basically people who on one side, on the east side, is people who are a little off kilter. They're not really talented. Their parents didn't really think to go to the West America, Hawaii, and the intermediate, Mexico or something like that. They didn't do that. And so this is like so it's only half of that statistic is the danger point for the ones who are not quite a stereotype or a not so good small group of people. So that's percentage. It's getting a slippery slope there, and that's why there's violence from this particular statistic. And I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. I have these very famous case studies. I find them all the time. The Maine, they're very well, there is two sides of the Atlantic. Okay, and so the other one is the west coast of America, the left-hand coast. So this one, I know this one very well because this is me. Okay, I can't really. So basically, you're left-handed. You're from a mixed American family, Celtic, continental. That's like Irish and German or anything around the channel there. English and French would be just the same, but of that combination, so there's a good there's a divide, you know, the continental and the British, Irish, they think a little different. You know, it's just a reality. So that family, but they do have East American history, so they didn't like come straight from the old world, which would be pretty difficult. Being, you know, the German and the Irish don't get married in Europe, or don't grow up in Europe and get married and then come out to California. That would be, I'm sure it happens, but you show me, you know, show in Hollywood, because you know Bruce Willis, he did not grow up on the West Coast. Okay, so not that he's English or Irish, I don't know. Or Paul McCartney, you know. But basically, when these people come out to the West Coast, they seem to have this epiphany, sort of like the people are looking for it. Oh, geez, you know, there's a European with a, you know, British, Irish, English-Irish slant to them, who is out there, and they're singing the blues, or they're, you know, acting crazy, you know, and to really do that is dangerous. See that in Kurt Cobain, is, you know, Jimi Hendrix. People do not live good lives, and so there's one in a million, this crucifixion, you know, 27, 33 ages, you know, do the math. Jupiter drops to Jupiter, right? That's Jupiter rotates every 27 years, or maybe it's Saturn, I don't know. But basically, that's just the center. That's like the epicenter. Like, you do not want to be in the wrong place then. You want to be in the wrong place when you're younger. Yes, yes. So it's very. I try to explain this, and maybe I'll draw something up here. Keep saying I'm going. So basically, you got to imagine this image. We have this big X on a sheet of paper, so it's sideways, right? Where so you have this giant X on a piece of sheet of paper, and so you have these lines, and so you're doing this statistic geometrically, like geographic, sort of like an ancient map where they just basically do a circle with a line through the middle, and then that's how maps were done, because that made sense to people could say, there's the world, you know, Asia and Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, right in the middle there. So there's the statistic map that I'm. Was actually, let's see. Here it is. Yeah. So this is sort of a representation here of this. I have to get like crazy when I do this. So I haven't actually done this yet, but those are sort of like the mountains. The middle one is a little off, I think. It's but basically you have this sort of this X and these triangles, and then so one is two lines and one is just one line. So that differentiation between the east on east statistic, the Virginia Tech. You know, this is Fort Hood. These are like incredibly sad sort of realities because they didn't have to happen. And then Jimi Hendrix, you know, drug lord, you know, drug spaz, you know, Purple Haze, Kurt Cobain, you know, these people are also just really representing, like, Jesus Christ, crisis, sort of emotional poverty that, you know, they're being honest, yeah, they're holding their ground through the bad times, in teenage years. That's when these people, if they get out, then out of this geographic domain, this is the far side, you know, get out of the far side, far away, and It's not a gay thing. So that's like the rationale. That's a rationale of terror right there as in itself. Charlie Chaplin. He made some incredible movies. You know, some of them, like, they made things too clear. Like Genesis. Phil Collins came out to the West Coast and started making things really sort of incredibly clear. There's like crucifixion there or something. Like, what the hell is going on? Edit that, I guess. So it's extremely hot. It's sticky. So I'm trying to work on these. So I've had this epiphany, this full-on epiphany. It's not about maintaining your health as much as it is rationality from the beginning. So you're born with a certain amount of rationality. I feel like I have enough of that. But I have no opportunity. So it's an irrational sort of world, an irrational sort of that one in a million thing going on there, where you just political statistics, geopolitical statistics, that the world, I think they really fear the truth, because if you have too much truth, your opportunity becomes questionable, but the world's opportunity and reality, that becomes, see, that's the focus, where you say, oh, that 1%, or that 1 in a million to 1 in 5, is there a peaceful solution for both without sort of rationalizing one over the other? You could solve that 1 in a million, and then that 1 in 5 is like a sort of a zombie person. That can happen in absolutely any culture. So that's important to realize. Chinese are very close in keeping themselves together. They could set this example for the world of finding these statistics that are theirs, and that they could also have potential. Chinese and left-handed people. Oh, great! It's like, yeah, insult me now. So that's but in the other case, say China, Egypt type of purely statistical, name, religion, nominal, normative, family structure. So the normative, there's this full, complete sort of contradiction there, where one side's out, one side's in, type of reverse pressure. It's very, very confusing to look at them both at the same time. Just because explaining it, it's difficult to explain one side. So, America is the left-hand side, the straight left-hand side of America, from a mixed community, blah, 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 that's me. And people get it completely ambiguous, and then you bring them both together, and it's like you've suddenly got, like, some element, some chemistry that is red hot. It's the sort of the, and then you get that, go back to the Jesus Christ and the sort of the chemistry, what's going on in the ancient Persian world, finding a massive solution from this tiny little Jesus Christ moment, like that uranium, Jesus. And at the same time, finding general happiness is really, really beautiful and will work fantastically, as long as it's, you look at the science. We've got science now. It's out there. Thank you.